Welcome to the Easton.Online podcast. I'm your host, Eliot Marshall. And what this podcast is here to do, it's here to help you gain strategies and tactics and tools that are going to help you grow in your martial arts business. If you have a martial arts school, a gym, this is one of my passions, is how we spread the message of how to really grow culture and business and some ways that we do it the best with our people, with our staff, with our clients. So I hope you enjoy. Give a listen. Who else to start with than the man, the myth, the legend himself, the creator, the founder of it all. Amal, what up?
What up? Good morning.
How are you?
Excellent.
How's your coffee?
Ben, spectacular.
Nice. Where's it from?
Home. Best coffee's from home.
Best coffee. No, yeah, man.
100%.
Before we get into like the nitty gritty of it, I was in Steamboat this weekend.
Yeah.
And I forgot to bring my own coffee. So I wasn't happy about that.
I bring my own setup.
Right? Man. Yeah. I messed it up, man. I messed it up. So, and I wasn't happy, but I went to Safeway and I was hoping they would have something decent. And then there was Death Wish coffee right there. Do you remember Death Wish?
I liked it.
You liked it because you like strong coffee. You like really strong coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So Death Wish, so everyone can understand. I mean, this was the best business thing they could have ever done. I guess, like, brilliant. All of a sudden, like one day, like the UPS guy knocks on my door, and what happened was I opened there's this huge box, and I opened this box, and there's probably 50 pounds of coffee, and I was like, what the fuck, and I was like, what, who is this? Like, is it a sponsor? And I don't know.
Did we ever find out?
I don't even know how they got my address, man. I have no clue who it is. It was just 50 pounds of coffee for me.
I wonder if this is how crack addicts talk about drugs.
I wonder. All right. So before we go too far down the rabbit hole, we are here to talk. This is a business podcast and how we got it started. So I guess just like your path, let's start with your path first into martial arts, and then we'll talk about how like you created your business, or what now is, I guess, all of our businesses and like I wouldn't say it's mine or yours or anybody's anymore, right? I mean, yeah. I think we have all the liability of it.
Yeah,
but I don't. I think that ours ends in the liability. So, where'd you start, man?
Where did I start? I started in New Mexico.
Right.
Growing up in martial arts schools, I guess we were just having this conversation. Non-traditional martial arts schools, right? Kind of like Muay Thai, Jeet Kune Do. And then I got introduced to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in like 92 or 91.
Before or after the first UFC?
The first UFC was 93, so it was a couple of years before that.
Nice. How'd you get introduced?
We'd seen some fuzzy copies of Gracie in action.
Okay.
And, it was hard to believe, like a lot of the videos, but it looked cool. And then there was a guy, Marco Gonzalez. He was a Navy SEAL who moved to New Mexico to go to acupuncture school. And he was I believe a blue belt under the Machados, under Carlos Machado.
Right, okay.
And so we got to feel it. And, once you feel jiu-jitsu, there's turning back.
There's nothing turning back. It's funny, you say non-traditional. We just talked about it a second ago. Because that's pretty much your whole experience through martial arts is non-traditional. And I would say it's almost your whole experience through life that people can go listen to on my other podcast, right? Like of the verb amaling, but the non-traditional part, right? Of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, of Muay Thai, of things like that. Like so when we talk about traditional martial arts in general, I would say that's karate, kung fu. What else is there? Taekwondo, things like that. Those are the traditional martial arts where you're coming in, you're yes sir, you're bowing on the mat, you're calling the person master. I know for me, when I started in karate, you had to go knock on the instructor's door. You walked in, you knocked on his door, he said, come in, you bowed. Right away, it was the first thing that happened. You had to be dressed in your uniform, and then you could go get changed or walk on the mat or whatever it was. That's how I started. And so I think, especially in America, for the most part, those were the traditional martial arts where you had a master and then students, and you were learning patterned moves of forms or katas. And that's what I think is the term traditional martial arts, and you did not do that.
It's interesting actually thinking, because you're right. My life was very non-traditional. And I think everything about my life was that way. And maybe that just wasn't, maybe that was why I never got introduced to those types of schools.
Right. No, it's interesting. Your whole life.
I had a very unstructured life.
Yes. So, but anyway, where that took you to was Brazil, starting jiu-jitsu, right? When you fell in love with it. And were you in love yet when you went to Brazil, or were you just like kind of obsessed? So you were obsessed first. Okay. So, and then you went to Brazil and you learned with the Gracies, Renzo, all those guys, and we can, again, all of that's on other podcasts. And then you came back to America. And what did you want to do with the jiu-jitsu? Did you come back with the intention of starting a school and opening a business?
At that point, I did. I still thought that I would do acupuncture as well, but the acupuncture went quickly by the wayside. I was still obsessed with jiu-jitsu. All I wanted to do is train and compete. I was a little bit tired of living in Brazil and kind of scraping by and trying to make ends meet. So, it was time to leave Brazil. I was out of money. I've been there almost 4 years. I came back here, started teaching, and
because there's no way you could have started a school in Brazil, right? I think you were a purple belt when you came back here.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been really acceptable in my mind.
Right.
I'd been a purple belt for 5 years, but still I was a purple belt, or like 4 years.
And so let's
not 4 years. I've been a purple belt for 3 years.
What year did you come back to America? A purple belt 3 years.
98.
So you come back in 98, a purple belt 3 years. That's when I moved to Colorado, in August of 98.
That was about the same time.
Yeah. So you come back, and so everyone can understand the different dynamics. So when you ask why wouldn't he have started a business in Brazil, purple belt in America was God almost, just about, right?
There was nobody.
There was nobody.
Yeah.
The Gracies were on the coasts.
Purple
right?
belt in America, you were crushing every weight division in the grappling tournament.
Yes. So, but in Brazil, that's, you're a teenager.
Yeah, you were getting your ass beat.
You were getting your ass beat still, right? You were getting your ass beat
I knew where I stood on that pecking order,
right.
And it was a whole different scenario.
I can remember when I met you, and you were the first person I ever rolled with that was good.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, what is that?
Yeah.
Because I felt like the first time I trained with somebody, they beat me up, but it was effort. Like it wasn't simple. And when I trained with you, you tied me in knots. Like, and you were like, you were like talking to your girlfriend, or, like it didn't matter.
There was definitely a confidence coming from Brazil and having those skills and getting beat up by, good guys every single day.
Right.
And then, so I had to start my school. It was a strange thing because I was used to the hard training every day in Brazil. Hard training, like I'm getting my ass beat, to all of a sudden just a room full of beginners. And if I wanted to continue my training, I was going to have to grow that room. And so that was that was the work that was set out for me, was how am I going to create an environment where I can continue my training, because I was still obsessed with jiu-jitsu. So
that was a big part of the school when you first opened.
Yeah. Selfish. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it was it worked out great for me, bro.
Yeah. Sure, yeah, I was sharing, but like I had to train,
You guys can remember, you called me every day, and like I don't know if you knew I was supposed to go to school or not.
School.
But you fucks, right? What are we wasting our time for with school? But you would call me, and you'd call a group of us. It was me, Jay, Forrest, weightlifter Dave. There was a whole host of us when you were starting. And I was like, fuck it. No school today. Let's go get good.
Good times. Everybody answered my phone calls, and everybody showed up when I said they should show up.
Things aren't quite the same right now, are they?
Man, it's been all downhill ever since.
Getting Mike on the phone can be hard.
Yeah.
So what was the typical day? So you're starting this school. And I mean, could you even call it a business yet? Were you even thinking of it like a business? Or were you just like, I want to get good at jiu-jitsu and this is how I'm going to have to do it?
Look, I was trying to pay my bills, right? I had bills I had to pay. I didn't want to, I was bouncing at a horrible club in town.
The Walrus.
That was the worst job ever for almost no money.
I loved the Foundry.
Yeah, the Foundry was probably better set up. Bouncing at the Walrus meant I sweat peanuts off the floor. Yeah. And all I wanted to do is train jiu-jitsu. And I was up late, and that messed with my training. And so, was I thinking about it like a business? In my mind, I was, because that had to be my job. What I didn't want to do the rest of my life was work in a bar or a restaurant. And so in my mind, it was a business. But I hadn't really made the switch yet to, okay, how, there was just a lot of stuff I had to learn.
What was a typical day like for you when you first opened the school?
When I first opened the school, I would make flyers, and then I would walk around and try to find places to put up flyers and try to talk to people, because nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was yet. It was an oddity in that era. So I would try to tell people why it was cooler than karate. And I was like, have you ever watched the evangelists in New York City that sit and try to tell you the end is near and they scream at everybody?
Yes.
I was like that, but with jiu-jitsu, basically.
Jiu-jitsu, all right.
So I would try to convince people that they should come try it out. And then the only way that they would believe you was if you, trained with them. So then I would try to make them train with me in one way or another. And then they would always say, well, but if I could, if we started standing, or if I could hit, or if this and that. And so then, of course, there was that.
So you basically went around picking fights.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. I was just trying to show people the truth. I was educating people.
You're an evangelist.
Yeah, 100%. That's the whole, yeah.
I mean, I can remember we used to pick fights. I mean, we'll get to this, like the Creek Festival, right? Like roll for a buck. Our Creek Festival dynamic is much different now. But we're not fighting anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that used to be what it was. I can remember having to teach a little class to the kids.
You put a dollar in the thing, jar, and if you can beat one of our guys, then you can get all the money.
You get all the jar.
You had to give people a little more incentive, or they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, you never, when we had to stuff it with money first, because the first couple people were like, oh, what am I going to put $1 in to get beat up? So I think we put like money in. I think we started with 100 is how it went.
But we didn't have, the UFC was not really. I think by then it had gone back underground, or it was not. It was illegal, so you could see it on YouTube or whatever. But most people were unaware of jiu-jitsu, so it was still this like proving ground. Like, I don't know if that works.
So that was March of '99, right? That you opened your school.
No, 98. End of 98, I started renting a space. In Karate
America.
Yeah, I was renting a space. Now, I don't know exactly what month. It was early 99. That we probably rented our first space.
Right, which was the King Super Space right behind the King Supers.
Yeah, so we built up to maybe 30 or 40 students. I was making...
There's no we yet, it was just you.
Yeah, by we, I mean me and my frog I had in my pocket.
Yeah.
And, and then we had enough money to pay for some rent. And that felt like, we were teaching, we had rented space 3 slots a week at a karate school. And it was cool, but they were teaching some silly stuff all around us, which I was pretty used to, because that's actually how Henzo started his school. It was in a Kung Fu school.
Right.
And there'd be these Kung Fu guys on the side, but it was the same thing. So it was familiar.
Sure.
They'd be doing, and I mean, just craziness, or, not traditional martial arts, not the kind of stuff that we were doing.
Right. So when you decided to make that move to your own space, what decisions went into that? What did that look like? Did you have so you had 30 students paying what? I think it was $79, right?
Yeah, it was some simple math, so it was like, okay, 30 or 40 times 79 equals rent, know, and then I realized that I was going to have to give up the place that I lived. But I felt like it was going to be worth it to be able to have classes.
So you lived
every
in
day.
the academy.
At that point, once I rented the space, I moved into a closet. I've been in the closets a lot of my life.
So you had to live in the school because like the math said you couldn't, I
couldn't rent my apartment, because the apartment we were paying $1,200 a month to rent an apartment. So that's $1,200
you were with
a
Louisa
month
too, right? So Louisa moved into the closet with you. I forgot about this.
Yeah.
Oh, was she happy about that or not so happy?
I took a privileged Brazilian girl and moved her into a closet in an academy with no shower. Yeah, that was a challenge. She was used to sitting in her hotel and ordering lobster in bed.
Yes. Where did you? But you had a membership at Rally Sport, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could go shower. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All the basic needs were covered.
Yes.
But that was it. The math equaled. We could rent the space and pay the bills but I knew that then after that, every student we added would start, moving me closer to actually being able to rent an apartment.
Right. So was the first goal to rent an apartment? Like, did you have goals lined up? Did you like where was your mind at? Were you like, okay, so this many? So
I didn't plan that far ahead. Like I knew that I had to add students. I had to, but I didn't have like concrete goals. And I think that was some things that probably helped me move forward is starting to plan a little better.
A business plan, anything?
I always had an idea in my head. I had to have a business plan to get them to rent me the space. They didn't want to rent me the space.
Okay.
Or, nobody really did because I didn't have, I had okay credit, but I didn't have any money. I didn't have any assets. I didn't have, stuff was expensive. So I convinced somebody with a very shot. I still have that business plan. It's a pretty hard to look at, but it's good. So the way I opened it, I knew that if we could add students and keep that growth, that we would do well. We could raise our rates because we're offering more classes. Then, I got to quit my job at the foundry, so I didn't have to sweep peanuts up for a living.
Nice.
And I got to dedicate, full time to teaching. That was great.
I'm going to ask another question.
So hold on, you asked what my day was like. I would put flyers around all day, every day, and then I would go teach my classes, and that was pretty much all I did. Like, I like to do a lot of activities, bike riding, all sorts of other stuff. At that point in time, for probably 10, 20 years, I was 100% focused on jiu-jitsu. That was all I was doing.
Right.
Pretty much everything else went by the wayside. So if I was flyering or teaching, that was it. Or any way that I could get people to,
I can
talk
remember
about
that
jiu-jitsu.
in the beginning, because you love to ski now.
Yeah.
You didn't go skiing. I can remember it was a big deal. I can remember the first time I saw you go skiing. I was like, damn, he's going skiing. I didn't even know you skied. And I think it was like a year in.
Yeah.
Like I was already training for a year and I was like, he's going skiing?
Yeah. All I did was jiu-jitsu. It was all I could think about. And I think that a lot of people...
I think that culture bled through the school too, though, right? Because that's all we did. Like we all just hung out in the fucking school all day.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of the culture.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu, like anybody who's opening a school out there or anybody who's really into it, man, if you're not obsessed like that about jiu-jitsu, then you probably shouldn't have a school.
This is just in general, whatever you want to do for your business, you better love it. You better not be doing it for money. Like how you said, like you weren't even thinking about all of that. You just wanted to get good at jiu-jitsu. That's a huge point for people, right? Like if you don't love this, if you don't love the actual activity, then you're fucked.
In my opinion, I don't, this is the worst. This is a horrible business for people who just care about money to get into.
Martial arts?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's
That's not
awful.
it. You have to love martial arts and then love sharing it with people. And then if you do all that, you might make money.
You kind of have to love people too.
100%.
You have to love to be around people, because if you don't like being around people, that's going to fuck you too. Because you and your 20 friends could hang out.
It's not for everybody, and it can be great for somebody that, the right person.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting thing. And we love people differently, right? Like, so it's not even like how you communicate and I communicate with people is a totally different thing. So it's not like you have to be this like crazy extrovert.
Yeah.
And one of our best GMs, Ian's introverted as hell.
But he still cares.
A lot. Yeah. So it's you better love it, I think is what we're getting to. So when did you get to the point, or what any steps that you took that got you to the point where you could quit the job, like quit the bar, rent an apartment? Like, how did you get from the closet with your spoiled Brazilian girlfriend to, an apartment? And
she wasn't very spoiled with me.
No, I know. I'm joking, man. Yeah.
I just started at, I realized, look, fortunately, the bar was paying like literally, I think $8 an hour. So that was easy to quit. As soon as I was making a little bit of money, that was gone. And then I was teaching every day.
Privates?
And then privates as much as I could. Mostly group classes. Not that many people did privates because the group classes were small. And I always gave 100% to my classes. So I think that the students didn't feel like they needed privates. Like there's two ways to teach. One way is that you, teach kind of a crappy class and don't give people a lot of attention. And I only say this because I've seen this a lot. Don't give people a lot of attention, so they have to take privates. And then you charge a lot for your privates, and those people get better, and then everybody wants to do privates. Or you can just give your heart and soul in every class. And then I think a lot of people start feeling like they don't need the privates because they come to class. So I realized that maybe I could teach privates and make more than I was cleaning the bar. And so I put the privates ridiculously cheap, $25 a private, and got nobody. Because I think people were happy with the class. So I thought, man, if I could do 2 privates a day, I'll make as much as I do working in this crappy bar.
Right.
And then it didn't happen.
Right.
you know, but adding the classes always, you know, worked out. But I really gave my heart and soul in every class. I tried to get on the mat with every single student, you know, and I did that for, you know, a decade.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you gave us everything. There was no holding back.
Yeah.
You know, like we learned really well, and we learned a lot.
I feel like I had good teachers. A lot of them were very generous with me. And the only way that I was going to have good training partners was by getting my students to be, you know, as good as possible, as quick as possible.
Yeah, you got us pretty decent, pretty fast.
And then there was a lot of research and development, not just, you know, I was still a purple belt. So there was a lot of R&D, making sure that I was up to date on the current jiu-jitsu. We didn't have the videos and all that. So I was taking 2 trips a year to Brazil for, you know, 3 weeks where I was getting stuff. I was going to New York City a lot and hanging out with Enzo and those guys.
Right? When Jay came. True? Because you couldn't do that until the school came, until like Jay came though, right? The school had to build a little bit, didn't?
Yeah, I did it pretty quick though. Yeah. You know, but it was trips to New York. It was, you know, Jay taught the first classes and that gave me a little bit of a break.
Right.
But, you know, but it was still like I would leave for 3 weeks. I'd say I'm going to Brazil for 3 weeks. And then I'd come back with all this new information. But everybody would want to freeze their contract, freeze their programs.
When you were gone.
When I was gone. You know, like Jay's an amazing teacher. And I had a lot of trust in him. But he was still young and green in jiu-jitsu. And they'd be like, oh, cool, that's great. We're totally stoked you're going to Brazil. Why don't you put my program on freeze?
Right. Right.
And that was heartbreaking. And so that was a big learning lesson for me was how do you create an instructor within a school that people are going to look up to and respect, you know? And there was a saying in Portuguese that says, don't give a snake wings. A lot of times they would want to make, you know, there's some teachers that would want to make sure that the students never looked up to like didn't give too much power to someone else. And then there was another saying that was like, you know, you have to give them wings. Like you have to make it so that the students respect the other people so that they don't all want to freeze when you leave. And that really freed up a lot.
That culture, right? And he was your teacher?
Henzo, 100%. So Henzo gives his heart and his soul on the mat, 100%, treats everybody amazing. And I think he definitely, you know, he teaches everything. And so he has amazing instructors and everybody has wings.
He gives everyone wings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his special skill.
Yes. More than jiu-jitsu, I would say. It's his superpower. Yeah. Not that it's jiu-jitsu shitty, right? But like that's his superpower.
Yeah.
Is he gives everyone wings. Henzo and Red Bull. I remember the Red Bull commercials where you say it gives you wings. Man, I was talking about this the other day actually in my class because I'm trying to make Anna be a very good teacher, right? Like she wants to teach, you know? And there's not a lot of female teachers out there.
Very few,
you know? So it's hard. So I was like, I talked to her about it the other day. I was like, all right, girl, we're going to take the Jackie Robinson approach to this. You like when Jackie Robinson when Branch Rickey wanted to bring Jackie Robinson to the Major League Baseball, he was like, look, you have to be the best. You have to be the best at everything. There's no room for like, you know, when somebody calls you the N-word, you can't react, you know? So, and when people say you're terrible, you have to show them the numbers of how great you are.
I can think of 10 amazing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys teaching. Right away, I think of Kira Gracie and Leticia Ribeiro, and it's not the huge. Obviously, there's other great girls out there, but
it stops. It stops. So for me and her, I said, all right, girl, well, you're gonna have to be the best.
Yeah,
because she's really tiny as well. You know, so to demand that respect. But that's a challenge, like what you said a second ago, was like one of the things that I think you took pride in, and that I definitely take pride in, is making great instructors as well. Yeah. You know, it's not just like great people at jiu-jitsu. I think it's really cool when you can make really great instructors.
Yeah.
And that had to be an important thing for you if you wanted to like get back to living your life a little bit too.
Well, you know? It's a study. It's how to teach. You have to be you have to have skills at jiu-jitsu. Like if you don't have a great product, then go freaking sell cars. Go do something else. So you better be good at jiu-jitsu. You got to study how to teach, and then you have to get the business practices in line so that you can support everything else. So you can pack that mat, you know, with your marketing, your administration.
When did that start for you? That part, the business practices.
So look, I was fortunate enough. I lived in Miami for a little bit in the middle of my Brazil trip, opening a school with Crawl and Gracie. And when that school kind of went south, I was taken under the wing by a gentleman named Angel Gonzalez, who actually had a karate school and was obsessed with jiu-jitsu. And he took me in to teach him privates every day, and he kind of showed me how he ran his business. And that kind of opened my eyes just to that side of it. Because before that,
this was still before you...
This is 97,
so
before
you moved to Colorado.
So it was good because it planted the seed. You know, he started teaching about how to teach, how to do your marketing, how to do, you know, a sales funnel, you know, the basic stuff. So I kind of got to see a little bit of business practices, and that was a huge part of it, because that's not the part that generally a jiu-jitsu instructor is in love with. Honestly, I think if you come from there and then go to jiu-jitsu, like in my opinion, that's the wrong way to go. You need to love jiu-jitsu and you need to be good at it.
Man, it's
so it's hard for people to get.
I talked to Rebecca Bach. She did it differently.
Yeah, the opposite way.
She did it the opposite way. She did it. Rebecca, go listen to her on the Gospel Fire. Shameless plug. And she talks about, she owns 12 yoga studios, right? And she loved business. And then was like, all right, I'll do this yoga thing with it. Yeah. So that was an interesting way to go about it. I guess in Boulder, Colorado, that works because you can hire a yoga teacher, right? It's a dime a dozen here, correct? Yeah.
I mean, you could probably do that with jiu-jitsu now. I'm not a fan.
In 98.
I'm not a fan.
But hold on, but not in 98.
No
way.
It'd be hard.
It'd be hard
even with jiu-jitsu. And I think if you have those skills, I think there's other ways that you could make a living and do better.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. All like the people that want to like hire a Brazilian to come in and teach in their school, I think it's crap. I think it's a bad
Well, it's not
idea.
just a Brazilian. Just hire somebody that you don't know that didn't come up through your culture. It's a different thing.
For sure.
It takes a long time to learn jiu-jitsu. I think yoga is a different process. Like the schools that have created 50 schools, they have a very short sequence of moves that they learn. Right. And it's not such a long process to learn.
Got it. The only position that we hire outside of our from the outside, where we don't bring them in first, where we don't grow them, is maybe a front desk person.
First impressions,
right? That's the only thing that we might hire out.
Yeah.
But other than that, you have to come up through us. I don't even think we let you clean.
Yeah, I mean, I have people that come and they want to teach all the time. Maybe they have skills, maybe they don't, but that just doesn't happen.
You mean other Brazilian, like a Brazilian, a friend, anybody?
Just whoever, people that come, they move from a different school, and it's like it could happen after maybe 6 months with us, but it's more difficult.
It's more difficult for sure.
Yeah.
So you had the introduction to these business practices with Angel, and when did you start like thinking about that though? Like at what point, like were you like did you see your like jiu-jitsu career, I would say, as like a competitor fading, and that's what made you go, maybe I want some kids someday, and those little fuckers got to go to college? Like what was that move like? When did that happen?
That took a while. I was just chasing, competing, and teaching. And before I was like thinking like that, like it was kind of a natural progression. There was a certain point, it just slowly grew and grew and grew. And fortunately that seed was planted with Angel. So I was introduced to Think and Grow Rich and the Michael Gerber book. What's the business book Michael Gerber wrote? Damn it!
Let's look.
I'll think.
No, it's all right, man. This is what Rogan does, man. He has Jamie. I'll the E-Myth.
The E-Myth.
No, the E-Myth.
So the E-Myth.
So there's our Jamie. Everyone say hi, Jordan. Turn around, say hi to Jordan. That's our Jamie. That's our Jamie in the background. He makes the magic happen.
That's
right. Yes. Make sure you give yourself credit on these podcasts.
So it was time management. He planted the seed for time management, which was Franklin Covey. some form of time management, but I don't know if it wasn't specific to me, but because I kind of grew up in such an untraditional way, that was a very important part to my getting to grow. You guys thought I showed up late to class, but man, you should have seen if I hadn't have taken time management classes. So, time management, business practices, which was the E-Myth, and then Think and Grow Rich, which just kind of put my mind straight.
That's the first book I recommend to people.
The E-Myth. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. So, like, if you're going to get anything from episode number 1, go get the E-Myth and read that thing.
And you might not be ready for it, but if it seems elementary, then good, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
And if it blows your mind, then you need that.
I talked to Matt Brown like 3 months ago, and helping him out and whatnot. And I was like, "Well, did you read the E-Myth yet?" And he was like, "No." I was like, "Well, go read the E-Myth." And he was like, "Yeah, it blew his mind."
Yeah. So, but I've heard both. I hear some people are like, it doesn't speak to everyone. For me, it was the most influential book I've ever read.
Yeah, writing everything down, like, it changed my life. Like, we were already going, man. We were
Still
going.
Important,
right?
Yeah.
We were going. We had 5 schools and yada yada.
That was like last year, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
I was like, what do you mean you haven't read the E-Myth
right?
yet?
Yeah, we were going, but the idea, of writing everything down. And as if you're going to franchise, that just crushes it. That's how Easton.Online came about.
Yeah.
Because I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's powerful.
It's powerful, right? Because like systems,
yeah.
And then not just the system. Like, you can have them
and taking a holistic view of the business, so you're not stuck. Like, especially most people out there that are starting jiu-jitsu schools are obsessed with jiu-jitsu,
right?
So they have a great product, and the rest of it is weak. Nobody wants to think about marketing.
I won't even say they have a great. So hold on. I won't even say they have a great product yet. They might be good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
that's not a great product.
It's a good start.
It's a good start because can you teach anybody
That's
jiu-jitsu?
Where I would like to see you start.
Yes, that's a good point. Yes, you have to be great.
That's where I would like to see you start.
Yeah, you have to be good, and then after that,
so you have a good base. In my opinion, if you're great at jiu-jitsu and all that, then you have a start. Maybe you could have a career.
Yes, at teaching.
Yeah,
at having a school. So I would say, and we disagree a little bit. I guess I don't think we disagree. We just heard it differently because we were in different parts of life.
I said it and you heard it.
Yes, you said it.
If we're going where I think you're going.
Yeah, I'm going to the Ricardo Almeida.
Right.
So you went out to Ricardo's school.
I
think I was like I think I was purple. I think I was a purple belt. Jay was gone. Jay was gone. Because Jay was running.
I like how Eliot identifies as purple in that time period.
What do you mean identifies? I was a fucking purple belt. There's we don't have to wonder what belt I was. I was a fucking purple. You were purple. I was a purple belt.
Everything about you was purple.
Yeah, it was my favorite color at the time. Whatever belt I was my favorite color.
Love it.
When I was a white belt, it was white, blue,
like
purple, brown, black. Now it's black for the rest of my life.
I'm a black human.
That's right. My 9-year-old identifies as black. He's white as hell.
He's a white belt.
Yeah. So anyway, so you go out to Ricardo's school, and he was doing things a little differently, in a business sense.
Yeah, he was doing an amazing job.
Amazing job, right? And things like structured warmups for a fundamentals class, which was unheard of. Like, people, so you have to understand, and I think probably most jiu-jitsu schools still go this way, is that you just, hey guys, yeah, run, yeah, great, okay, jumping jacks, okay, my friend, and everyone, like, a lot of Americans talking a Brazilian accent too. So, and you just kind of do whatever for a warm-up, even in the most basic class.
Yeah. Which
we have found is terrible, and I think you got that from Ricardo.
Yeah, and I got introduced to some other people. Thomas Clifford.
Okay, I remember Tom Clifford.
Thomas Clifford did an amazing warm up.
The videos, yes.
Yeah, he did some warm ups in his school honestly, that came from traditional martial arts. That came from karate.
Yes,
they do their warm ups in a very specific way, and he adapted the movements of jiu-jitsu into that. And he used to have it was very impressive to watch his class because
I can remember. Now you're bringing me back, man. I can remember standing there, feet shoulder width apart for traditional martial arts. Your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders back, your shoulders forward. It was this structured thing, and if you wanted,
especially the way we came up, it was very impressive because it wasn't what I was used to.
It's exactly what I was used to, and I think I think maybe this is why that first conversation when you came back from Ricardo's, you asked me the question because we had some notes about what we were going to talk about. It started to scare me, right? Because I was like, motherfucker, you're going to make me call you master now? Yeah. Like, you know, because was like I had 18 years, or I'm sorry, 12, 13 years of traditional martial arts. To be clear,
I never asked anyone to call me master.
No, of course not. I'll get there. You know, you're going to, you know, 12, 13 years of traditional martial arts. And like, by the time I was done with it, I was in like this teenage, I was 18, you know, I was like, man, I don't want to call anybody master anymore. Yeah. Like I'm 18 years old, right? Like it was fine when I was 7, you know, but, and then I probably felt like when you came back, like you had all, like, I was like, man, like, you know, so like we had a little, like you had a meeting and we had this little, you don't probably remember it, but it was, like you don't remember it. We talked about it, you know, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm not, you know, I'm not doing this. Like this feels like karate again to me.
And there's another saying in Portuguese that says something like, if you, the only people afraid of snakes are people that have been bitten by snakes.
Yeah.
I've been bitten
I've
before.
Been bitten by this snake. I've been bitten by this snake. Well, I saw what, you know, what traditional martial arts led to. Like, you know, we would go out to dinner because you and I had spent a lot of time together at this point, like a lot of meals, a lot of everything. Yeah. You know, a good amount of time. I remember what it looked like, man. Like when you went out to dinner, if your food came before the master's food at the restaurant, like you had to sit there and wait for your food to get cold, but so his food came.
Yeah.
Like, and this was everything that I hated. Like, especially as a young,
understandable,
a young growing adult, like trying to find myself. Like I said, I'm not calling anybody fucking master.
Well, there's no checks and balances and no accountability to your skill set as well.
Yes. And that was the big difference with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Everything was accountability to your skill set.
Yeah.
So
you might have an 11-year-old child who's a higher ranked than you, and then you have to wait before you touch your food.
Yeah, man. Right? Yeah. That's exactly how it was. I mean, I got up, dude, man, I was 16 years old, 17 years old. I was the highest ranking motherfucker at the school, other than the teacher just about. And the way it works in traditional martial arts is you have to acknowledge, and I get where it comes from. You know, like you had to acknowledge every time a senior member came into the room or on the floor. Dude, I'd go in and off that floor like all day. And then I'd be like, oh, no, it's okay. You don't have to do it this time. You know, you had all this power at 16.
Yeah.
And I was there every day. And it was stupid. You know, so when I heard anything like it, like you're talking about, you got bit by the snake, you know? Like you weren't doing it, obviously, but I was like, you know? So,
and I think at that point I decided, or I kind of, when I realized that there was some benefits to some of the cultural aspects in maybe even the traditional martial arts schools. Right. Like there was definitely some things culturally that we were missing. I felt like people were disrespectful towards the school in terms of, I remember the mats would be like full of athletic tape and Gatorade bottles after class, and I would have to walk around and pick this stuff up. It was like people weren't treating the space or the dojo with respect.
Right.
And, you know, you can go all sorts of directions with that. I think that some people go exaggerate, but at the same time, like I think teaching people a little bit of respect and to act in a certain way is, you know, it shouldn't be blindly, but you have to know how to act.
I want to say that probably too had to do with the third world culture of Brazil.
I think that if the Brazilians hadn't been the way they were, jiu-jitsu would not be.
Of course.
Right? There's like the Japanese weren't going to invent Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
No.
There's a reason that the Brazilians crushed the Japanese with jiu-jitsu.
Right.
It's because they kind of got rid of the confines, which the cultural aspects were so heavy that they were, they were slowing jiu-jitsu down.
But I can remember the first time that I went to Brazil and Horion was taking us to Gracie Barra.
It was the jungle. It was wild. Yeah. It was savage.
Like I remember hearing about going to Gracie Barra, and like Gracie Barra was the mecca of meccas, right? Because Carlin, that's where it was. Dude, we walked into a shithole. It was a shithole. Like I went to go take a piss. I couldn't even take a piss because like the toilets didn't flush.
And then when you stepped on the mats, you got your ass beat.
You just got destroyed. Yeah, it was amazing. It was, I mean, I loved it. You know, it was amazing.
Something very raw.
That wasn't going to work in America.
Look, it serves a certain purpose. Like it's not. It would work in America just like it works in Brazil. Like I think that a lot of the instructors in Brazil, they weren't making a living.
But hold on, what I mean
barely
by
getting by.
no, not the savageness, the cleanliness. Like
same thing. Like the school, I think that the schools could, they could have been a lot bigger. They could have been, and on the plus side, you got people that were very dedicated because they were willing to look past that. And there were some beasts that were on the mat, and they weren't going to be put off by any, you know what I mean? Like you're going to not learn an amazing art like jiu-jitsu because the mats are a little dirty.
Oh no, not me.
That's what I'm saying.
But schools we're fucking weirdos, man.
But I'm just saying, in my opinion, people aren't that different in Brazil or America. We're all the same. Like, and maybe some people get used to different
hold on,
standards. People get used to different standards of living, and maybe they'll put up with different things. But the Brazilians pride themselves in being very clean. I believe per capita they sell more soap than anywhere on the planet, and I learned that from Brazilians.
Really?
Yeah, so they pride them. So they take a lot of pride in their cleanliness. So I think that a lot of the practices that kind of maybe have been developed in America as a little bit more of a first world country are making their way back to Brazil. I guarantee when you go to Brazil now, the schools are much more structured and organized. And so all I'm saying is that it would have worked in America. You just might have still lived in the closet.
Gotcha. Yeah. That was my next point. You're still going to live in the closet.
That was Gracie Barra, and Gracie Barra was the school to be at.
Right.
And in Gracie Barra, there was a bunch of instructors that had their little schools, and I don't know how big those schools were.
Sure.
Like they were doing all right, but
they were living in the closet though.
So to speak.
So you come back and you're definitely more business focused from the Ricardo trip.
Yeah, I guess I just saw I had kind of an ongoing conversation with Ricardo Almeida and his then wife, Ali Almeida. And they had kind of tried to make some steps. I believe he just had his first kid, and they were, he was struggling just to pay the bills. Right. And he had a baby now.
Right.
And so they were trying to get more organized. And, as women are often, his wife at the time was very organized and not afraid to break any kind of cultural or understood barriers. So they really did an amazing job at being organized. They had lots of people, like Tom Clifford, and I'm sure there's lots of people that were amazing influences in that direction. And I just saw kind of a different mold. I think we were already doing a little bit of a different mold. I think I learned a lot from him. I hope they learned something from me. But I just kind of saw it in a different way. And then everybody kind of decides how they're going to take it or how they're going to interpret it.
Right.
Because it wasn't like a cookie cutter mold, there wasn't but I saw it in a different way, and it gave me some great ideas, and that was definitely a huge influence.
And I can remember when you got us to buy in. The guys at the top. It was me. It was Nick. It was a couple guys, right?
Ooh, that was tough.
That was tough.
Yeah, it was some difficult conversations, and because we had to see it in a different way, because we were very just do whatever. We were more jungle then, like I said, I was sick of cleaning up Gatorade bottles and tape on the mat, and just people not acting in a respectful way. They would act in a respectful way because I could beat their ass, but that was it. And that was it only went so far.
Right.
And so then it was okay, I want people to bow on and off the mats. That was a huge deal. That was probably the first thing that your ears probably perked up, and you were like, that's it. I'm having this.
I'm done.
So it was look, we need to bow on and off the mat, because then people need to treat this place with respect, and not, and I'd created the culture that it was. So it wasn't your guys' fault.
Sure.
But so I said, okay, I want people to view this space as a special place, a place of learning. And that was where it started. Honestly, that was one of the biggest things in the beginning, was I want you to bow on and off the mat.
I was so mad at you.
Yeah.
I was so mad at you. I was no.
And the second huge thing was that not letting people train right away.
Yes.
And that was tough. It's still hard for people. But I do believe it's an important step. And those were the two big things that I decided, when I came back, I was like, this is how it's got to be, because this is going to help us grow a lot.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did. And separating the classes a little more. That was the next step, right? Like not just
well, because if you're going to say certain people, you can't train until a certain point, then you have to have like a class that's designed for those people to get them ready to train.
Right, for sure.
Because
go ahead, sorry.
You get a tough guy that walks in off the street, doesn't know jiu-jitsu at all, but he's a beast, and then he's just wrecking everybody.
Tusikna.
Sure. Or, worse yet, like Shane Carwin.
Shane Carwin, right? Yeah.
Like he's just crushing people's souls, and not necessarily in a nice way.
No.
Not like taking care of people at all. And we're trying to build people up. And, we claim, or at least I wanted to give confidence to people that might not be the most incredible athletes or tough guys, because I think that resonated with how I was as a child.
Right.
Like I grew up in an environment where people, I was bullied a lot. And so I wanted to try to build people up, not tear them down. And that was a big, big change.
So here comes the question, though, because this is where the TMA industry was and still is a lot. The sales, right? This shady sales of start the beginner program at $69. Get them hooked like crack, man. Get them hooked like crack.
3-card Monty.
Yes, and then here it is. Oh, whoa! But it's $399 a month. You pay it all up front. How did you not?
No. You could take a first mortgage on your house to buy your black belt.
How did you not do this? Because it was right there for you to do.
Oh yeah, I took a Stephen Oliver.
I remember.
I took a Stephen Oliver course, and talk about a smooth car salesman. Like he could get people to take out mortgages on their house to pay for their black belts.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel good, man. It felt dirty.
Yeah.
And what I was interested in,
you could make money, man. But he was rich.
I wanted to help people, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice my morals to do so. It's hard for me. Everybody has their own scale of what they're willing to do, and it's hard for me to watch some of these people with their sales techniques. It's awful.
It's disgusting,
despicable.
right? Yeah,
it's
gross.
I
agree.
It's gross. And some people are so like the other way, like some clients, that they just don't give any respect for the service that you're giving.
Right.
They have no honor. But coming up in the restaurant business, I'll never forget, we had a class with Nordstrom's, and Nordstrom's is very well known in the industry for having the best customer service, and they used to say that they're going to make their policy based around the 95% of honest people, not the 5% of dishonest people.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of tried to take that attitude, and I said, look, we're going to try to hold people accountable a little bit, but also, you owe it to your students to be a certain way and not to be sleazy. This is
our first course that we're putting out is on Easton.Online, is about the first impressions and, with the people at your front desk and sales, because it's so hard. It's very, very difficult to do it in a way that, I think we do it really holistically.
Well, the fitness industry started selling long-term contracts to the point where the feds had to regulate their sales processes because they were so gross. They still do it, right? 3-year contract.
Right.
We're selling you the black belt. And they try to present it in such a way that this is going to benefit you. And look, part of it, if I can get you in the mindset that you're going to follow through with this, you're going to take jiu-jitsu for 4 years, there is some benefit to that.
I can remember that theory. We talked about this. We did it for a while. Yeah. I can remember what made me bring up the conversation to you. I know I'm skipping way ahead right now. To get off of contracts, because we don't do contracts anymore. We do a 30-day out,
Yeah.
But, it
doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I can remember what made me bring the conversation up to you was I was listening to the Rogan podcast, and he would talk about Ting. It was a cell phone thing.
Yeah, contract.
No contract on your cell phone. He'd be like, what do you hate about your cell phone? And I'd be like, man, I fucking hate that about Verizon or AT&T or whoever you had. And I was like, wait a minute, we kind of do that though. And it's not like, and I was like, and then you said something to me. I don't know if you said it to me or you made me read it somewhere. Not made me read it, but you put it in front of me. It was about the product. And I was like, hold on. If we fix our product, if our product is just the best product, and we already had a really good product at the time, if our product was like the absolute best, then that sells itself. You don't need a contract. Like if the contract is what's holding people in our school, then our product sucks.
Well, and look, everybody has their scale of what they think is okay. Like if you're
Right.
renting a house, you expect to sign a 1-year lease.
For sure.
As somebody renting a house, I need that commitment.
Right.
Right now in the school, we don't just let people out. We require 30 days notice.
Right.
And we have people that come and cry about that. They're like, well, I need to leave tomorrow or I need to leave next week. And we try to, unless they have a very outside of the box story, we hold them to 30 days because that was what felt good.
Right.
Right. That was what I could sleep at night. If I see the guy in Safeway and he says, man, I tried to quit and you made me stay for 30 days, I can feel okay about that. I'll look myself in the mirror and feel great about that. No problem.
No
Like,
problem.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
no.
We let people know very clearly on the front end. A year, 6 months, something like that. People getting bad credit. That doesn't feel good to me.
No. So
and
yeah.
in my opinion, you pollute your community, and then people get a bad taste in their mouth about you. I want somebody to come try out jiu-jitsu, maybe decide it's not for them, and still love us and refer people to us.
I can remember when it happened recently. There was a guy at the front desk, and he was like, looked at our front desk person and said, "Give me your sales pitch." And I was there, and I looked at him. I was like, "We don't." I was like, "Hold on," and I took it. I was like, "There's no sales pitch."
Yeah.
He's like, "What do you mean there's no sales pitch?" I was like, "Look, you do a trial month."
Because everybody copied the fitness industry.
Right. Yeah.
And it just became so sleazy.
Yeah. I was like, "There's no sales pitch, man." He's like, "Well, why should I sign up at this school rather than the other school?" I was like, "So you have it for it." I was like, "So the trial month allows you to try every class for a month."
Sure. And that's our process.
That's our process, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get to try every class you want for a month. If you're not sold by the end of it, we give you all your money back.
Yeah.
Because the product sells itself. I don't think we return many first months.
Yeah.
Because the product. So you open some more schools, right? After I know. Now I'm going back in time again.
Yeah.
You open some more schools, right? Like you opened Denver. You had opened Centennial, right? Those are the two schools that you had opened. I think the Kleins had opened by this point. Pretty soon here along the road.
Right. Yeah. About the same time as I opened Centennial.
God, everyone says, and your dad told you. I can remember having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Steve told you no.
Don't do
Everyone
it.
told you no, not
Don't
to
do
do
it.
it. Why the hell would you take on a business partner?
Look, it's interesting because I could have taken on some very bad business partners.
Right. A lot of people.
For a lot of the wrong reasons. A lot of people wanted to be business partners with me. And it's a very tempting thing to take on somebody who's amazing at jiu-jitsu and has the exact same skills as you, and so that maybe I can go to Brazil or I can travel and you could teach classes.
Right.
But it's important to have somebody that is able to look at the entire product in more of a holistic view. To look at how are we going to run this school in a holistic view, that you're on the same page, that you're running it the right way, and that your goals are aligned. I think people take on partners for the wrong reasons.
Right.
They think it's going to be easy, but they don't look at. They take on a partner that's their mirror image, and sometimes that's not the best thing.
Yeah,
need
we're
somebody
nothing
that
alike.
compliments in different
Other than the
ways.
fact that we love people and we love jiu-jitsu.
We're both black. You're not purple anymore, bro.
Oh shit, that was solid. Oh my god, that was good. Yeah, we're both black.
I'm 4 stripes.
You're 4 stripes.
That's right.
I'm 3. Yeah, we're not very alike.
Yeah.
We're not very alike in how we do things or or anything like that. And we even argue and fight sometimes and yada yada, right? But somehow we get through it.
Yeah.
We get through it.
It can't be done casually.
What's that?
Taking on a business partner. It's
Especially
like-
when you're successful, bro. You were good.
Yeah.
You were pretty solid.
Yeah.
Right? I hope you're better now.
100%.
Okay.
No regrets.
that was
Zero regrets.
That was a tough question right there. We could have this whole
That's
thing
it.
could have diverged or
Let's
we're not
put
diverged.
put the
The whole
equipment away, Jordan.
the whole ship could have sunk right there. But for me, when I came on, that was one of my huge goals. I was like, damn, I can't make this I knew what Denver was making, and I was like, okay, for me, my first goal, because I was put into Denver, was I have to double Denver.
Yeah.
I have to double Denver because I need to be at least making that much.
Yeah.
And he can't lose.
Yeah, because I believe we're both working hard, or I was working hard, and I deserve, if you put in that kind of work and you help enough people, you deserve to make a reasonable living.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. You had already worked hard though. right?
Yeah.
You were, it was done. I'm not saying it was done for you, right? But you were fine. Boulder was great. You know,
but it's like that thing they say, like if you take on the right partners, or two can be 1 + 1 can be more than 2.
Well, it's definitely that way with kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely that way with kids.
But it can go both ways. It could be 1.5, and that would be a horrible partnership, or it could be 3.
And I can remember a very distinct conversation we had during this whole like partnering thing. Was you were like, look, man, my life is my life.
Yeah.
Like if you're not okay with how my life is, like I'm not working more. Like, and I'm 10 years younger than you.
Yeah.
And Denver had
those are the type of difficult conversations which like the attorneys make you have also.
Yeah, but we had it first.
This wasn't an attorney conversation.
Right.
But before you enter into things like that aren't like fleeting moments, then you have to think of what are the complicated stuff that's going to come up down the road.
Yes.
Because that resentment will build, and then you have an ugly breakup, and then divorces are never pretty.
No.
Business separations are never pretty.
Yeah, and I think you and I are as married can get.
Yeah.
It
would be ugly.
It would be ugly.
Yeah.
And even even when we argue or disagree or whatever it is, I'm never thinking divorce.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, we got to fucking work this out.
Yeah.
Or like, this is how Eliot is, or this is how, whatever it is.
I mean, I'm not proud to say, but I got divorced from my ex.
Yeah.
that was probably easier than it would be to have to split up with you.
Yes, it would be probably, right? Yes, it fucking would be. But yeah, so and now where are we? We have 7 schools, right? I think between the two of us.
Yeah, I don't like to boast. I don't like to brag. I don't like to, look, what I don't want to do is like the millionaire jiu-jitsu club. I fucking hate that.
Yeah, no.
That turns into sleazy sales. It turns into the wrong reasons. I'm very comfortable and very happy with my life. I believe we are able to provide for a lot of amazing staff members. I believe we provide for a lot of amazing students. It comes back to that thing. Like if you help enough people get what they want, then you'll get what you want. And I think that's
Dude, I had an amazing story the other day. About that topic right there that you just said. So I needed a graphic for the Gospel of Fire podcast.
I saw it.
Did you?
I saw the Facebook post.
Okay. So I put it out there, and I just responded to the first person that hit me up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, man, well, let's do this. I'll pay you on the back end.
I'm still getting emails about it, by the way.
About what?
The graphic.
For me?
They're probably sent to, owners at Easton Training Center or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good.
So anyway, we get done. The work's done. And I'm like, all right, man, how much do I owe you? And it took him 3 hours. He was done in 3 hours, right?
Nice.
So I was hoping it wasn't going to be like $1,500.
Whoever it was.
Sounds
sounds like they crushed it. Yeah, they did it in 3 hours.
I messed up. I didn't negotiate the deal on the front end, which is not the way to go.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, oh God, right. I was too excited that I had someone good doing it, and I totally blew this. Mm-hmm. You always negotiate first. Like terms.
Well, at least set expectations.
Yeah, you set expectations. Mm-hmm. You and understand terms. So I was like, dude, this took him 3 hours. If this motherfucker hits me with $1,500, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah,
for a graphic. And he responded. So I asked him, I was like, all right, how much do I owe you? And he goes, nothing. Mm-hmm. I was like, what do you mean nothing, man? He goes, you probably don't remember this, but we were at an LFA show, and we needed to move locker rooms. So I cleared it with the promoter, LFA, this guy was telling me, and we came into your locker room, which was fine with everyone. We didn't care. But then the commissioner came in. One of the commissioners came in and just started ripping this guy a new asshole.
Commissioners.
And I was like, and he was like, you put a halt to that dude. Like I was like, man, you are not, I don't even remember this really. He's like, you made that dude be nice to me. Mm-hmm. And then I got to see, and you guys were definitely at another level of coaching and how to deal with your fighters than we were at the time as well.
Yeah.
So I got to see all that, and the fact that guy was that you there was no reason for you to stand up for me, and you did. So now he's like
it's that just be a good person.
Be a good person.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how your business has to go. Be a good person.
100%.
Be a good person.
You have to treat people like you expect. Like you would like them to treat you. If they were, in a position of power and you were not.
I think that for both of us, both you and I, we would still be doing this if we had to sleep in the closet.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really great. We have great schools. We have great employees. We do a lot, you know, in our day to day. And
I can say one thing. I think I probably would. I would have to be looking at my life and thinking if maybe I chose the wrong profession.
if you were sleeping in the closet still?
Yeah, if I was still sleeping in the closet, I would say maybe I have a different calling. Maybe there's something out there that I would be better at. So yes, and like I say, like you never quit,
Right.
Like don't quit. Then you're going to get good. Well, maybe if there's a time to quit, so I don't know. That's hard to say.
I would say you don't love it enough.
It's like I said, like if you help enough people get what they want, then you get what you want.
You just
it's not about at the end of the day, like if I can help enough people, it's not about my sales process. It's not about, if I'm in it for 10 years and I'm not making it happen, I need to take a good, hard, honest look at what I'm doing, who I am. I got to change some shit up. So I love what I do. I can't imagine doing anything else. And you got to put food on the table. And if after 10 years you're not putting food on the table, man, you better think long and hard about what you're doing.
Yeah, you have a twofold problem probably, right? You either don't love it enough or you don't know how to work.
You got to figure something out. Yeah, maybe you have the wrong personality. I know some people that should not have jiu-jitsu schools.
Agreed.
We'll leave them nameless.
All right, well, man, we skipped a lot in there. So there's a whole other episode that we could get out of this, but let's just cut this one right here for right now. I think cool. It's a good stopping place. And none of us would have anything if it weren't for Amal Easton. Jordan wouldn't be sitting back there. How many cups of coffee today, Jordan? You're on your second cup. That's right. Was it good?
You'd still be drinking weak coffee.
Yeah, you'd still be drinking coffee from that shitty coffee spot we went to. And look, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Look, I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do now is help people that are working on their academies, help them have better academies.
Yes.
Help them help more people, help them be more successful in what they are doing. And we're not trying to do this for, people that aren't doing a great job. Like they better have the beginnings of a great product. But I think that's what we're doing. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I believe that I was among the pioneers of kind of the way that we're doing our schools now. And we're just trying to share practices. When I had to work a lot, going to a lot of different karate seminars, some sleazy stuff out there and some great stuff. There's some great people helping out, but I felt like I had to take a lot of different molds, whether it was a yoga studio or whether it was a karate studio or whether it was a fitness place, and try to figure out what was the best way that made me feel good about how we were doing it and that would help bring jiu-jitsu to more people, because I believe that jiu-jitsu can change people's lives. And that's partly why we're sitting here talking, right? So I just wanted to put that out there, that's kind of a big project of ours, is to try to help school owners help spread their message to more people and help people. So that's it, right?
Thank you.
Cool.
You're the man.
All right.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.